What's up, tribe? My guest today is Ash Naeck. Ash is a life coach, a holistic nutritionist, and he's appeared on the TV show 90 Day Fiancé. He's a man of many talents, but above all, I can't believe how nice this guy is. He's a genuine gentleman. Ash has been very vocal about what he's seeing during this pandemic, and he hasn't been afraid to express those opinions. And it's refreshing when I see someone like Ash, who's got a big following, a big audience on social media, put his opinions forward. And look, I had a great time talking to him, and I hope you guys enjoy it too.
Ladies and gentlemen, podcasting from Sydney, Australia. This is the Primodcast. Independent, unfiltered, and uncensored. Beginning in 3, 2, 1.
Ash, thanks for joining me. How are you, man?
I'm very well, Chris. Thank you so much for having me. Super grateful for being here. And I'm very excited about this podcast.
I appreciate it, man. Look, I was introduced to you. I think we linked up. Dr. Joseph did Instagram live, and you were one of the guests on there. And it's the first time I'd spoken to you, and I think we spoke about you coming on pretty much soon after we did that live video. So, man, it's a pleasure to have you on. So, what's been happening, man? What have you been up to?
So what's been happening since last time? Same thing. I've been working. I've got I'm a life coach. Yep. And I've been working a lot with people lately, especially with people with the situation that we've been experiencing. Mental health has been a massive issue, and people have been highly impacted by that. So this has taken a lot of my time, and so also I'm trying to be a dad because I have a little 11-year-old that I take care of. Yep. So juggling work and being a dad, and on top of what is going on around the world right now. So it's been a very interesting, challenging, and situation to live in.
Yeah, definitely, man. So you're down in Melbourne.
Correct. I'm in Melbourne. So Melbourne has, as you guys know, has been quite heavily impacted by the lockdowns, by the restrictions, by different things that has happened that has really affected a lot of people. Apparently, we've been affected a lot by the COVID. When I say COVID virus, is how it has impacted everyone from health, mental health, work-wise, etc. So yeah, Melbourne has had a fair share of interesting ups and downs.
Yeah, definitely. I think we all know what's been happening down there with the rallies and that pandemic bill, which is passed now, which is very concerning. Yeah. Very, very concerning. He just seems down there, he just seems to be on a different level. You guys have had it. In fact, you're the most locked down city in the world.
It's been
in
Melbourne,
terms of length, yeah. 250 something days. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, correct. I don't know if this is the science behind it. I still am trying to find the science behind the lockdown, which to date, I haven't found anything that is sustaining.
Good luck.
That's exactly right. That's very much like having to like a little red candle that you need to light up just in the hope that you'll find that answer. Because that's not something that we will find, I guess.
No, and that's what we all, from day one, I think that's all a lot of people have asked for, is to see proof and justification for the measures, because it's impacting everybody. And when you have the government making decisions that are impacting every single person that lives within that state, we have the right to ask questions, and we want to see, okay, well, listen, if you're going to do this, can we please say the reasons are behind it to justify it? Because look, most people are reasonable, and I'd like to think that 99% of people are reasonable, but we haven't really been given a lot in the way of evidence. We get told there's evidence, but we're yet to see it.
It's such an interesting one you've said right now, because we are told, as you said, we are told the evidence. We are told that this is what's happening. But then when you go and look for it, it's a very different story, because all the information that we require is already on those government websites. And when you look at the information, you're like, that does not make sense to what those guys are saying. When I say those guys, those politicians are narrating on mainstream media, in their press conference. That does not make sense, because they're completely different information that is being provided. So then you start questioning, like, well, what is going on? They have a narrative on the website. When you're trying to find the truth is embedded in parts that becomes very challenging to find.
Yeah.
And information that were meant to be readily available are turning out to be really difficult to get. You do get them after like researching for like an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, sometimes a day.
Yeah.
When those information should have been readily available for everyone to be able to see, so that we can make an informed and conformed decision to what we want to do with, the vaccine, for example. Those information are not provided to us, but we are being told that we need to listen to our politicians who are being elected by us. We elected them to represent us. Now we are being told that we don't have the power to voice ourselves, to voice our concern, to voice our discomfort in not taking something that we don't feel right to take. And because of that, we are being penalized for it by not being able to work, by not being able to now soon enough, I'm guessing next year, the kids who don't want to get vaccinated, or the parents who don't want to have their kids vaccinated, will be barred from going to school, will be barred from going to sports activities, will be barred from doing a lot of things that should not be, should not be an issue. So so that's where I think the challenge comes from, or the challenge arises. So it's going to be a very interesting situation, I think, coming next year, especially with all those mandates coming out. And
definitely, man. I think, this has been going on now for quite some time. And as this has gone on, and look, most people that I speak to, yourself included, I'm assuming, I don't know for sure, but I'm sure you'll clarify, aren't opposed to vaccines in general across the board. They're not. I'm certainly not an anti-vaxxer by any means. I've had vaccines before. My kids have had vaccines before. I'm not an anti-vaxxer at all, but the more this has gone on, people start questioning it, and justifiably so, because there's no evidence, there's no data available from the government. They're putting these measures in, like your premier down there, Dan Andrews. He's not a doctor. He's not a scientist. He's taking advice, getting advice from other people, right? So then I'll look to those people. Okay, they're a doctor or whatever it may be down there. And okay, well, they've said this, but where did they get that information from? I like finding I love data. I love statistics. I like analyzing it myself, because, you could read you could read a study. I read the same study. We could come to two completely different conclusions, right?
Correct.
So I like going back right to the beginning.
It's the perspective of how we see things. Yeah,
definitely. And I think it's important that we all have that. So we have the ability to make an informed decision, which we haven't had the chance to. Like most people that have lined up and got vaccinated now, I'm prepared to say that maybe, I don't know, probably, if just say 90% of people have had it, I reckon at least 60% of those people didn't get it because they wanted to get it. They got it because they had to get it for work, for leisure, for, freedoms, as they say. And they weren't given the opportunity to make an informed decision. That's a problem, a huge problem. But man, I think what we can really do now is which is why I've got you on. It'd be great to have a chat to you about it, is really focus on ourselves and focus on how we can be the best version of ourselves throughout this entire thing, because we can't rely on the government. We can't rely on the health system at the moment. So we have to rely on ourselves. And, whether it's mental health is obviously a major concern. And I've seen that now. The industry that I did work in prior to losing my job because I didn't get the vaccine, I worked in mental health. So I have a really good understanding of the impact
of what is going on
that it's causing. And not only mental health, but physical health. I mean, a lot of us have been locked inside for the best part of 18 months. We've been, there's time limits on how long we could be outside. So I think it's important that we really focus on working on ourselves and being the best versions of ourselves.
No, spot on, Chris. Being in the industry, you will have a better understanding, better idea of what is really going on when it comes to mental health, how it affects us. It's one of those things that does not just happen within like a day, a week, or a month. It's something that builds up to a point that 6 months down the track, it just explodes. And what it creates is like this explosion is like a cataclysmic explosion. It's not just a little explosion and you're like, oh, you know what, I can keep going now. No, it really affects everything around you. It affects the people around you. It affects your mental health. It affects the people around you. It affects your life, your work, your health, your emotional health. Everything is affected. It's one of those issues, challenges that we can't see. But what happens is that we can see it not straight away, but we can see it down the track.
Yeah.
So
we can say certain things immediately. Like, I mean, in terms of, it ranges. Obviously, you've got very, in terms of mental health on a spectrum, you've got things from just a mild anxiety to all the way up to unfortunately, to suicide. And I'll just quickly read this because I came across this morning and I haven't posted it yet, but I'll share it with you now. This is from, we haven't got the source, but it's definitely an Australian study. Intentional self-harm and suicidal presentations for all ages were increasing and remain above both 2019 and 2020 levels. So 2019, we had, where are we here? 462. 2019, 462, 2020, 461. But compared to 2021, we've had nearly 600. So there's quite a few more cases. But what's concerning is here. So intentional self-harm and suicidal presentations for children and teenagers aged up to 17 remain substantially higher than both 2019 and 2020 levels, and moving into an upswing pattern consistent with the usual historical pattern. So 156 presentations per week as of 2021. That's compared to 90 in 2019 and 83 in 2020. So almost double. And that's in teenagers aged up to 17. So that's very concerning. I only came across that this morning.
And you know what? This study is sustaining actually what I'm seeing right now, because I do work with a lot of young kids. When I say young kids, I have a lot of young men around me. And what I'm seeing right now is more so, even with my son, they're becoming very anxious very quickly. And the good thing is that they can voice it. They can, he's in the state of, if he feels anxious, he will tell me or he will tell his mother. But I can imagine there's a lot of more kids like him. And the reason why they feel anxious is that sometimes they don't even know what is going on within them, but their body's trying to tell them that there's something wrong. And it's being expressed in feeling anxiety, feeling stressed, feeling like they don't belong, maybe sometimes in that environment, because we are taking them out of how we should be as human beings. We are beings of meaning. We need other people. Not saying that, sometimes you like to have your space, which is totally fine. And I hear that as soon as I say, oh, we are being of meanings, we need other people to be able to grow. It's great to be able to it's great to be on your own. Sometimes I need my own space myself. And I think, absolutely. Chris, you will understand that. We need our own space to be able to check in with us. Because checking with us means like, hey, where are we at now? How are we feeling about that? Are we feeling good? And not in an analytical way, because when I say check-in, there's mental check-in and there's body check-in. Most of us, we are taught, conditioned to mentally analyze the situation, which is a good thing. However, when we disconnect the fact that body and mind is connected, when we disconnect that and we sever that connection, we stop checking in with our body, how it's feeling. So when we feel anxious, we don't really know how to express it. We just think, oh, I'm feeling anxious. I just suppress that anxiety. I just do something that will allow me to be able to deal with that anxiety. And let's say, for example, someone who's feeling anxious right now, they feel anxious and they're like, oh, I feel anxious. I don't know what it is. Let me go and play some game, because that will shut off my feeling of anxiety and not make me feel and make me sit in that discomfort. And that disconnection is starting from a very early age. And a lot of kids lately right now, I'm realizing, is feeling anxious, but they don't know how to express it. And what they tend to do is they get stuck on games. They get stuck on different things that doesn't allow them to be able to express themselves and release that energy. So I totally agree with you. And the stats just sustains that. that more kids are feeling anxious, and we have to be very aware, especially if parents are watching it right now. I would say my extension to a lot of parents is to see the behavior, to actually just check in with your kid and make sure that they're okay, because sometimes you won't even know until something wrong happens. And before that happens, I would say just check in with your kids and just let them know things are good. You have the support, we are here, there is help. Yeah. And I feel like we need to talk up to our kids, because most of the time, teenagers, young kids, they don't know how to express themselves, and they just shut down and they don't share it.
Yeah.
And they go to different things now that we have that numbs our emotion, numbs our feeling of pain, and doesn't allow us to be able to share and express those harmful situations. For example, anxiety. So it's great that this stats came out and we have that information.
Yeah, it's good to know, but it's also very concerning. And I think there's a few issues with, especially we'll talk about teenagers in particular, because that's when you sort of start getting up to mischief when you're sort of teenager, right, as opposed to a young child. But it's definitely happening throughout all age groups, really. Like I think every age group's going through some degree of crisis, whether it be anxiety or stress or depression. Or a lot of people, you got to remember, like me, for example, everyone knows I'm unvaccinated. So I've, like in New South Wales, man, I've been locked down for 6 months, over 6 months now.
Yeah.
Right. So that's just not just me. Obviously, everyone that's unvaccinated is in the same position where they can't just go out, go to the shops and, go shopping. Besides the grocery shopping, you can't walk into closed stores, etc. I mean, in a way, you sort of feel dehumanized in the sense where, I walk past cafes sometimes outdoors and there's dogs in the cafes with their owner sitting there in the cafe. I can't get into that cafe. So, it's not a nice feeling. But look, luckily, I've got the means to be able to remain mentally strong and push through that without any real issue. But a lot of people don't. And man, the messages I get from people, it's heartbreaking when I read them. And I wish there was more that I could do for them. But it's mental health will be something where when we look back at this in years to come, it'll cause a lot more damage to the population than COVID ever will. And I'm seeing that a lot in children. I mean, look, children are going to school and they're getting, Victoria, where they still have that, where children have to wear masks at school. Up here, even though it's not compulsory in New South Wales, a lot of parents are sending their children to school in masks, which completely destroys in terms of development. Like if you're talking primary school, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds, it's crucial for them at that age to start learning social cues, facial expressions and reactions and all these things. Just the ability to connect with another human being, including their teachers who are also wearing masks. It takes that away, which is a very important part of communication, just probably more important than the actual words that are being spoken. So I would have to imagine there's going to be some level of, that's going to be, I don't know exactly how that's going to come out in the future, but it'll be causing damage for sure. And, teenagers, again, higher levels of anxiety means, unfortunately, higher drug use, recreational drug use, prescription drug abuse, which is becoming extremely common. The amount of benzodiazepine abuse that I was seeing when I was working in mental health. And it's almost been like a part of like a culture now, where it's like popping, in the morning when you wake up, you have your vitamins, zinc, vitamin. It's like popping one of those in the morning actually nowadays. So I agree with you. I agree. I've seen that too, actually. Huge problem. And I've spoken about this before, is that it's very important to be aware of your situation. And man, like I went through a very hard time at the beginning of last year, with just some family issues and personal issues. And I was having a hard time. And at the time I went to the doctors. I couldn't sleep. It become overloaded me. I couldn't deal with it. So I went to the doctor and they put me on a antidepressant, which I wish I would have known as much as I do now about them, because man, let me tell you, when I tried getting off those things, and look, in reality, I didn't need it. I was just going through a hard time, a hard part of my life, which we all go through. That's normal.
Correct.
It's normal to be sad. It's normal to, but it's become so commercialized now where if you're feeling sad, no, you're not allowed to feel sad. You go to your doctors and get on an antidepressant to make you happy again. And unfortunately, I bought into that. And man, trying to get off those things was a fucking nightmare. Like I'm talking about body zaps, brain zaps, nausea, couldn't sleep, sweats. Like it was brutal. And that's just me, a lack of education. Even though I worked in mental health, it was funny because I didn't really know how to deal with it myself.
And the thing is that, it's, I would say when you say lack of education, I feel like more so from a space of what we've been conditioned to believe. Because it is a conditioning of making us, I guess, believe that the solution to this challenge is this pill. Yes. And that's what we are. We are actually in a society where everything is fixed quite very easily, very quickly. Fixing an issue, fixing a challenge very quickly doesn't mean it will fix it for the long term. It can fix it for the short term, and you can feel good for that short amount of term. But for the long term, it can have consequences. But we are not taught to see the long term consequences of those problems. We just say, hey, we have a problem, we can fix it quickly. And we are taught to fix things very quickly. So we go to as you said, you go to the doctor, you go to the specialist. Their first thing is like, rather than checking in your body, hey, what have you been eating? Can we change the food that you've been eating? Are you deficient on some minerals, vitamins that can help you manage that stress, can help you manage the anxiety? Rather than doing that, going from, I believe both medicine and holistic has a part and has a place in our world, but we tend to go so far in what the science of medicine is telling us, like that's the solution. And I think that's the problem. We were taught to believe that. It's we were not taught to believe differently. So I understand what you mean when you went to the doctor and that's the first thing he says. There's a solution. You're like, great, this will fix my problem.
Yeah,
I take it.
Absolutely.
It's and the only way for you to know that this is not benefiting you is by taking it. And after a few months, you're like, shit, this is actually not really helping me anymore. And I need more maybe. And your body will just keep on. How much can your body take? Because like you will increase the dose by extra one pill, 2 pill, 3 pill. Then you start like going in that process of overreaching, overdoing. And that in itself has another consequence to the body.
Well, there's a consequence to every action. There's a consequence. Doesn't matter what it is. Right. And when I started taking them, so what I wasn't any hardcore. It was just a basic sort of entry level, you would call it, antidepressant, which was Lexapro, SSRI, the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. Yeah. And what that does, it utilizes maximizes the amount of serotonin. It sort of puts it into a certain part of your brain, because serotonin is what's responsible for happiness, right? So, right. And low serotonin is associated with depression and mood swings and all the other things that we don't like dealing with. But when I started thinking about it, I thought, well, you know what? There's a consequence to this. Like I'm playing with chemicals in my brain. That can't be good. So, and then I stopped working. And it's like, oh, that's okay. Just up your dose. I'm like, well, hold on a second. Like, do I really need to up it? I'm like, I feel better. Like, I feel better to the point where like, oh no, you just need to have. They're trying to push more of it. I mean, I have up to, I think it was like from 10 to 20 milligrams or something like that. It was, and I'm like,
it's a big jump.
Yeah, I'm like, this can't be a solution. And then I started studying a little bit more and researching exactly how it works. And look, there was a lot of studies out there that showed that it wasn't much better than a placebo, right? So I started thinking, well, is it just in here where I think, oh, it's working? Is it just purely psychological? Like, and I thought, well, I'll try and come off it. And that's when I realized, holy shit, this is no joke. Like when you stop taking those things, you're worse than what you were when you first started. Well, that's not good. Like it puts you in a really bad position. Yeah, man. So I wish I knew more back then than what I know now, but it is completely, especially at the moment, like with what's going on at the moment. I think it'd be almost unusual if someone hadn't experienced some degree of depression, anxiety, and just stress over the past 18 months, because it's been a fucking nightmare. From the beginning, it's been people have lost businesses, people have lost their jobs, and business locked down. You couldn't do anything for weeks on end. You couldn't even go to the beach, the pools, for a walk. It's been tough, man. Very tough.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you, because when you talked about your challenge last year with the family, etc., and what you had to do to be able to reconnect with yourself, you thought it was the solution to be able to reconnect with yourself and find an alignment within you that will help you get out of that situation. But what happened is that it made you realize that what was given to you, or what we were conditioned to believe, is right. And what was given to you is really what made you feel worse when you wanted to go back to normal life. When I say normal life, is not having to depend on that pill.
Yeah.
Then it made you realize how wrong this is, because you can't depend on something all the time, especially on a pill like that. So stepping back and taking that perspective of researching and looking into it is, I feel like, something that is very noble too, because like at the end of the day, there's a lot of people who will just be stuck in the fact that let's up the dose, because it's easy, it's quick, and the doctor is saying to up the dose, let's up the dose. But you had the mental and capacity and the conscious awareness to take a step back and say, there's something wrong there.
Yeah.
And that state made you want to research and look into another alternative. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've not just with that, but everything in terms of my health, I've really taken a step back from what we're all taught and what we all know as being the means to even diet. Like as far as diet, like I believe that it's all your one being, right? Your mental health, your physical health, mental health, and your spiritual health are all one.
Yeah,
they're all one, individual, but they form one. Like they form your being. So I've really focused on looking after, and you know what, man? It's pretty what we all know. If you're anxious, you feel it in your stomach, right? If you have bad gut health, that can affect your mental health. So we all know these things. So I've really taken a step back and focused on those individual elements, physical, mental, and spiritual health, and tried to improve each of them. And what I'm noticing is that when I work on some things, that could be my spiritual well-being, which I've put a lot of time into working on, that will raise my mental health, will improve my mental health. So it goes hand in hand. And same with my diet. We all know, man, there's been a few days where I've eaten like shit back to back to back, and you feel terrible. You're tired.
Yeah.
You got no energy. You got no motivation. You're a bit down. Like it's not good. So we all know that these have an impact across the board, across how you feel. But I really feel like everyone needs to really take this seriously. And obviously you've done a lot of work, and you've done a lot of with your life coaching, what you're doing. Obviously you know a lot more than what I would. So how do you find, like, how are you in terms of spirituality? We'll talk about that for a bit. How do you find that in terms of the general population? Do you find that overall on average, we have a lower sort of sense of spirituality than what we should have?
I was going to say actually first, I feel like the knowledge there is not more or less. It's about how willing are you to research and to find answers. Because we are given so much, all the answers are given to us, and we don't go and find the answer ourselves. In the space of spirituality, the reason why I'm saying that right now is a few years back, 10 years ago, when I got married, I had a baby. We had a baby, actually, my ex-wife and we had a great life. And everything was great. We had, at the age of 29, I had a few houses. I had a great job, being paid well. And everything was going great in life at that time. And now I'm 40. I can't say the same.
Are you 40 years old?
I'm 40 years old, correct.
No.
Yeah, correct. I'm 40.
Man, you look like you're 30. I was thinking before, you're probably the same age. I was going to ask you 40.
No, thanks, man. I really appreciate that.
You got to send me your skincare routine.
I will definitely do that. I should actually, I should commercialize it too. But yeah, at 29, I thought I had everything done, and I'm like, wow, this is it. This is what we fight for. This is what we desire. This is the term desire. This is what we desire. to be able to be in a state that we have everything. We have a, wife, have a kid, have the means to actually have a great life. But what it made me realize is that I didn't have a purpose, like we talk about purpose for men. Man needs a purpose. I didn't get it, and I didn't understand it. It's just lately that really understood the term purpose of a man. And when I'm using men right now, I'm just not negating the fact that women do have purpose, but I'm just taking it from my perspective as a man. So what happened is that 29, we decided, we realized that we were not meant for each other at that time. From our limiting beliefs, we thought that we were not right for each other, my ex-wife and I, and we decided to separate, which was very tough because I had a baby, everything was great, everything was good. So from the external, you will look at us, you will think that's a perfect couple. But what is going on internally is different. When I say internally within us is different. So I stepped away from that and I went to actually Nepal for nearly 3 months, 12 to 13 weeks. I went to Nepal, I went to India, to Nepal. And I was on that, I guess I won't say journey, but just trying to really understand who I was. Because I was not happy with what I had. And from, the perspective of what we are taught, I had everything, but I was still not happy. So I went out and I was thinking maybe I can find the answer there. And I went out. What really surprised me is when I went to one of, and what we call the ashram, which is a temple or a place of meditation, whatever we can call it. There was a foundation or a temple that I went to, and I stayed there for nearly just over, I think, five weeks, give or take, because I stayed in a few of them different. I stayed there and I meditated just to learn how to meditate. What I was told is that they taught me how to breathe. Okay. And the first time that the person told me, "You don't know how to breathe," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "This is not how you breathe." And I'm like, "Well, I've been breathing the whole, it's like 29 years of my life. I'm still alive. I'm doing great."
Yeah, that's right.
But, but yeah, he told me, "No, you don't know how to breathe." And that moment that he said that, I was like, I did not understand what he was trying to tell me. And in my mind, I'm like, that must be one of your, woo-woo type of thing telling me that I've got something wrong with me. But he was really meaning is that I don't know how to really breathe deep inside of me so that I can feel and understand my body. Yeah. I was just breathing to survive. I was not breathing, and I was breathing to survive and doing. I was always in the doing process. I was not breathing in a space of being comfortable with whom I am. And I was not comfortable really with whom I was. So when he said that, and I was like, "So how do you breathe?" And then he expressed me, he sat down and he showed me how he breathes. So he was doing the process and he's like, "Do it." I'm like, "All right." Sat down, did it. And of course, the first, I think 5 minutes, I was like so in my head and I'm like, that's stupid. That is stupid what I'm doing right now. Because you're just like, what is this? Because like I breathe. Yeah. But then gradually when he actually he sat with me, he actually held space for me. That's what I should say. He held space for me to be able to get out of my head and to connect with my body, with myself, to just feeling what my body was telling me. And within 5 minutes, I was like, wow, that's a very interesting feeling I'm having. It's a feeling that I never really connected with before. So from that day onwards, when I got to that experience, I got really intrigued. And I got so intrigued that I started actually wanting to know more about meditation. And that was one of the initiation of meditation. Yeah. Though I was given different initiation, prior to that, that initiation, that experience really changed my approach or my view of being present with myself. Yeah. So that opened up a door and a start in my life when I started really asking questions about how I'm feeling right now. So dropping in my body. That moment really got me into, rather than always asking questions or doing, once I asking questions, stuck in the cycle of doing and doing and doing, which is usually it's a state of action. when you do.
Yes.
You're always doing. It's a state of action. And what does action mean? Action means to act.
Yeah.
To act means to perform. And the more you perform, the less you are in your body, which is being present and checking in with your needs.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So the more I was in action, the less I was checking in with my body and my needs. And the less I knew who I was, until I was given the space to be able to check in my body and sit with my body. And it was uncomfortable to sit in your body because you just want to move, you want to think, you want to do different things. And the moment that I really got better at checking in my body, there was emotions that started coming up, which was strange. When I say emotions, there was emotions of anger sometimes. There was emotions of pain. There was emotions of frustration. There was a moment that I started crying. So, which is very interesting because I started checking in my body. And now what I understood, not on that day or not even the time that I spent in Nepal, but more so when I came back, and the journey is that there was a lot of emotion stuck within me that I didn't express. And it came out as me doing things that will satisfy and flatten the feeling of wanting to be in those discomfortable situations or uncomfortable situations. And what I'm seeing right now in society, and the reason why I said that, and I broke it down from that space, is I see the same thing in society. We are, rather than sitting and seeing how it feels within us, we completely negate the feeling of how we're feeling within us. And we decide to act on it by keep on doing, being in the state of action all the time. Because when you stop and you think and you ask questions, it means that you're starting to actually feel in your body. It's a moment that you have to really stop and sense and feel, okay, where is that feeling in my body? Oof, it's in my stomach. What is it trying to tell me? So that's when it starts like really dropping in and trying to feel what your body is telling you, which honestly we've been disconnected with. Mind, when you hear mind, body, spirit, we've been disconnected with the mind and body for a long time. And when I talk about body, it's about what you eat, how you move, and all those different aspects. And when I talk about mind, is what type of thoughts are you cultivating? Are they thoughts that will make you grow, or are they thoughts that will disempower you? So all that came into play, and yeah, meditation was one of them, and being able to sit and be present with myself in the discomfort was one of the initiation. That when I say initiation, something that really helped me understand where I was, what I needed to do, and how I needed to move forward.
Is that a sort of an like a out of body experience that you have, or is it more like just a really high level of self-awareness? Like,
it's I think out of body experience, I think some people may have had it. I feel I've had it a few times, but not like that. I don't think I was able to get to. I'm not yet able to reach that level. I'm aware of that. Some people can get into a state of meditation where they can just leave their body, etc. You hear about all those, yogis or very high level people that does it. I've never experienced it myself. I've done psychedelic, ayahuasca, toad venom, where it changed my perception, got me out of my body, got me out more in my heart. That's the idea of it. Very unpleasant, very high level of discomfort.
Psychedelics,
but I've never really
the mushroom. We're talking about DMT.
Yeah, correct. So toad venom is 5-MeO-DMT. Toad venom, which is what they call toad venom, is the God's molecule.
Yep. It's
very similar to when you hear people doing ayahuasca.
Yep.
Ayahuasca is a psychedelic plant, and there's different I think ways of. I won't say ways, sorry. There's different psychedelic experience you can have. 5-MeO-DMT, which is toad venom, is one of them. Yep. Then you have, magic mushroom. You have ayahuasca. You have different, I think, modalities.
Yep.
And that will definitely get you to a state of outer body experience most of the time, not all the time, most of the time. But I've never had that under normal circumstances. Under normal circumstances, what I had and what I can share is a sense of peace, a sense of serenity, and a sense of groundedness. Especially when you're in a chaotic situation, the first thing that you would tend to happen is that, boom, you react to the situation rather than responding to the situation. And I think a lot of people knows that, rather than react, respond to the situation. So I was in a state of always reacting because I was very impulsive. Yes. And the reason why I was impulsive is because I was not able to sit with my body and be grounded. And I didn't know how to express my emotion, manage my emotions. So I would just react because I wanted to release the energy straight away, which is most of the time very harmful because you hurt someone else when you do that. And you hurt yourself too. Yeah. So what I experienced in sitting with my own emotions, sitting with my own discomfort and checking in my body is that you're able to get to a state of grounding yourself where then after you can take a more informed decision of the situation.
Yeah, it sort of slows your way of thinking, like you're processing down. So you have time to think and act appropriately, where a lot of us, myself included, I'm guilty of it, that we just so always, it's almost like we're always just constantly wound up, like just huge levels of stress, on edge all the time. And all it takes is something minor, like someone could beep their horn. And I've had my days where someone just beeps the horn at me and it sends me, like, it pisses me off. Because I'm at that point already where I'm frustrated, like I'm just on edge. And when you make decisions in that headspace, or you're making decisions based on emotions, which is a huge problem, you don't act rationally. You act irrationally. You're acting on impulses, and instead of having the time, it's like you've run out of time. So instead of taking a step back and thinking it through and making the correct decision, you're skipping that thinking. You're just going, yep, boom, boom, and you're acting to whatever it might be.
Yeah, no, you said something very powerful right now. The time, giving yourself space to be able to process the information is so powerful because it's such a simple process. Give yourself time or give yourself space to be able to let the information drop in and see how it feels in the body, not only in the mind, but in the body. And what you said is very powerful because we don't give ourselves that time. We just react. Yeah. So true.
And it could be a lack of, look, a lot of people probably think that's normal in terms of the way they act impulsively. They probably think that's just a part of life and decision-making, but it's not. And when I've been really, when I've really focused on my spirituality and taken that step back, it makes a huge difference. The way I think, the way I speak, the way I even speak to people is different. I come across a lot calmer and sort of like you, where you speak in this tone where it could put me to sleep, right? If I was to sit there and listen, if you have a book, an audio book, I'd buy it to help me sleep. You just put it on and you could drift off. It's very soothing and relaxing, right?
Thanks, man.
But you see a lot of people that are really in touch with their spirituality. They all got the same sort of tone, and it's nice, man. It's a beautiful thing to be in that space where you're calm and collected 24 hours a day. I'm sure you have your moments. We all do.
All the time.
But I think it's extremely important to get in touch. But like I said, look, a lot of people, especially in this country, man, this country is really bad for it. A lot of Western countries, the US, Australia, the UK, I think New Zealand to an extent, because our way of living is so stressful and it's so full on, like you have to be on the ball. Like every minute of the day you're awake, you've got to be proactive. Otherwise you get left behind, right? Yeah. The traffic, like going anywhere, you do with the traffic lights. You don't really get a moment to sort of sit back and just breathe in this sort of paced environment. The closer you get to the city, the worse it is.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you probably go through a similar thing down there in Melbourne. It's so fast paced all the time. Everything's moving 100 miles an hour, which is a huge problem.
So true. That's, we are always seeking, I guess, from a space of the environment that we're in, we are always seeking pleasure.
Yeah.
And we have the desire center in the brain, which is constantly trying to kill the pain to keep us safe. When you think about the desire, and you will get that, you will understand that the desire center of the brain is constantly trying to kill the pain to keep us safe, because that's what we want. We want to be safe all the time. Then your brain has been conditioned to avoid the predator, and which is sometimes classified as what we call the challenge. We want to avoid the challenge to seek the prey, which is the pleasure and safety.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the challenge sometimes, because we need both to be able to actually grow. You can't have one side and then just, there's always consequences with having one side. So you need both. The pleasure without pain is a fantasy of the human mind, as they say, where the paradoxes of the opposites are lacking. When those are lacking, leadership of one's life becomes at risk of collapse, because you don't have both to be able to bring it together so that you can make a decision that is going to help you grow. You just have one aspect and you think that, okay, this is the solution. But what happens to the other aspect is that you start negating the other aspect and you forget about what this aspect will bring to your life. So operating from that space, the paradoxes of the opposites is very important, because it will help you lead a better life, because you are aware that there are positives, there are negatives, and you're okay with that. You're aware that sometimes, life will be great, sometimes life will be down, and you have tools and skills to manage that. You're okay to know that you're not always perfect. You have your imperfection too, and it's okay. All those things you start ticking and you're like, okay, great. You know what? This is how life is about. And to progress is to be able to progress in life, I believe. That's from my perspective, is to be able to tell yourself and to stand out of the pack. To stand out of the pack and be content to be called stupid and crazy.
Yeah.
Because, standing out of the pack is not a bad thing. It's just because you are thinking a different way, it makes you stand out of the pack. But because you have thought differently now, you're called crazy and stupid. Be content with that, because this is a progress in your life. This is a growth in your life. And I think we should celebrate that more than putting it down, disempowering it, if that makes sense.
Definitely. And I don't think you can grow inside your comfort zone. So what we're speaking about, sort of stepping outside of your comfort zone is very tough. No one likes doing it. But ultimately that's where you grow. You don't grow inside your comfort zone. You'll reach a level of, I guess, contentment in there, but then you'll stay there and nothing will really happen for you, right?
Yeah.
As when you step out of that, it goes nuts. Like things happen and good and bad. It's not just all good, but look, I mean, and it can happen quickly. Like back in January 1st this year, so beginning of the year, nearly 12 months ago now, I was working in a job I loved. And I love mental health. I love helping people. But in saying that, I had, it was a toxic environment as a whole. The organization I was working for was extremely toxic. But I hung around there because I guess I loved my job, but more so, I was content. I was earning a paycheck every week. Obviously, I've got a family, young children to provide for. So I was content. So I just kept my mouth shut, didn't really speak up, just went to work every day, come home, same thing every day. And then when all this sort of happened, I thought, I wanted to do a podcast for a long time. And I thought, I just could never get the courage to do it because I thought, oh my God, I'm going to get negativity. People are going to say, and I didn't know how I would handle that. I have been at times in my life a very anxious person in certain situations. So I was always sort of second guessing myself, and just, if I could find any reason to get out of doing something, I would do that to avoid sort of being on show, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So anyway, when this all happened, and we sort of got hit with COVID, and I was unable to work for a period of time because of COVID, and I didn't want to get tested all the time, so I wasn't allowed to work, and it was just a nightmare. But because I had that extra time, I thought, you know what, I've got nothing to lose now. Fuck it. I just went up and got myself a microphone and the headset,
You got it done.
and jumped on there and just started and got it done. And it's crazy to think, like, I've had, like, my podcast has been #1 quite a few times in the entire country, which is nuts. I never ever thought
That's amazing,
at the beginning man. And that's not like it's just, I want people to use that as like, this can happen. And all it took was for me to step outside that comfort zone and just go, you know what, I'm just going to do it and take the risk. And look, I've copped a lot of shit, as you probably can imagine. I think we all cop it to a certain extent, messages and comments and whatnot, but fuck it. It's just, don't worry about other people's opinions. Don't act like, don't live your life to please other people, because you don't want to, you don't want them to write, say things or be negative, or, it's the worst thing you can do is to live your life according to the opinion of others. Don't do that. Step out of that and take a risk. And look, in my case, mate, I'm very grateful for the opportunity that I've got now. And I speak to amazing people like yourself and learn things every day. And I've got a great group of people around me now that are like-minded, and mate, it's been incredible from the place where I was. Look, it's unfortunate that I lost my job because of this, the vaccine mandate. But I do believe that things happen for a reason. And as I said, I loved my job, but the workplace in itself was toxic anyway. I had a fuckwit of a boss. Like, you do not understand how toxic this woman is. Like poison. Like, you could be happy, feeling positive,
and
happy,
you're
go in for a 5-minute meeting, walk out, completely different person.
changes.
Hate the world, negative because of so I'm happy I'm out of that toxic environment, but I do miss the work I was doing. It was very rewarding. It satisfied my soul in a sense where obviously I went to work for financial reasons, but obviously as well, it gave me something that money didn't, which was a fulfillment of helping other people. So I do miss that. But at the same time, I'm very grateful that what's happened has happened, because it's, I love my life at the moment. It's, considering the amount of bullshit that's going on around me, around everybody, with what's happening. I'd like to think that I'm in a much better position now than I was at the beginning of the year. And it just by taking a risk and stepping outside of the comfort zone.
Bro, that's actually, so your passion comes out, as you're saying right now. Your passion comes out, and your passion was already there. You were helping people, and now you can help. You can help not only one person, you can help thousands of people right now, hundreds and thousands of people through that podcast. So,
which is incredible.
Your passion is, and I think that's the thing. It's not because things are difficult that we do not dare. Usually, it's because we do not dare that things are difficult. And right now, you just went out and you dared to make it happen, and you challenge yourself and you made it happen. So hence the reason why you're rewarded for that, because you're on the line of, you're on your highest, your values are very clear. Your values are about actually being of service to others, helping others, making sure that people are, just being of service.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's pretty much what you're doing. And you're still doing what you were doing there was reaching out to a certain amount of people, but now you're doing it and you're reaching out outside of Australia even.
Yeah, man, which is not like, I'm sure you've done a few things that gets, a lot of feedback, and it's an incredible thing. When you hear the positive, like, it's not so much me, it's my guests. So, I'll get reviews and I'll get messages saying, I really loved your guest. In this case will be you. I really loved talking to Ash. I learned a lot from Ash. He's a great guy, and that's amazing because I facilitated that. Do you know what I mean? I'm not taking the credit for it because it's all you. It's your knowledge that you speak, but it's at least, I've got the platform to have made that happen. And that's very rewarding for me in itself. But I think it's very important as well, this pandemic has really taught me, especially the last 6 months, how important our values and morals are and our beliefs, and do not sell them out. As I was saying to you prior to the show, I'm not an anti-vaxxer at all. I don't give a fuck I don't care what anybody does. I honestly don't care. As long as I don't harm another person, I don't care what they do. But I'm about freedom, and I really believe in the freedom. We should all have the ability to make our own decisions. We're all adults, right? We're all equal on this earth. Just because someone's a premier or a prime minister or even the Queen of England doesn't matter to me. I look at everyone equally. We're all the same. And, if there was an earthquake or some, natural event that's not going to, there can't be an earthquake here because the Queen lives there and The earth doesn't care. Do you know what I mean? The world doesn't care. And we're all equal. We're all human beings. We all have a right to be here on this planet. It's all ours equally. We have an equal share of it. And I just don't like being told from other people that you should get this and you shouldn't get this and you shouldn't go out. I don't like that, because who are you to tell me that, or to tell anybody that? It's all it's our country. It's our planet. We have a right to do whatever we feel. That's why I got really angry at the fact when we were told we can't go to the beach, we can't go for bushwalks, we can't. Hold on a second. I look at that, like those activities like bushwalking, going to the beach for swim. I look at that as a healing for me personally. It's a healing. Just like some people may go to the gym and lift weights, which is fine, obviously. People may go for a run, people may go for a massage, or whatever the case may be. Going to the beach and going out into nature and exploring, and that to me is a healing activity.
Yeah.
So that really got to me as well, because we should all have the ability to explore our planet. It's all ours, right? Equally.
Right.
Man, our morals and our beliefs, I'm really, and that's why, look, I've lost out on quite a few brands that want to come on. I'm sure you've probably dealt with a similar thing, because your opinion on the matter, people don't want to work with me.
Yeah,
it's controversial, and it's like, man, I'm not controversial. I'm just speaking up for what I believe in, which used to be, prior to this pandemic, was something you would admire about somebody.
Correct. Freedom and freedom of speech. Yeah, I agree with you, and that's the thing. I feel like at the end of the day, even if someone says something against me, I will support their freedom, because like it is their freedom to say whatever they feel is right for them. Of course, it's not nice to hear abusers and stuff, taking out abusers. But if they have a feedback that is constructive, and even if it's not, sometimes the ego is hit, it's still a feedback which I can use to better myself. So, and I will support that. I will support that because of the fact that that helped me, even if it was not pleasant. That helped me to be able to change something that was not serving me. And I agree with you. I agree actually when you say that we are now being told that we can't do the most simplest thing in life, which they're free. Going to the beach is free. Now I'm not allowed to do that. Going to the nature, walking, taking a trip somewhere is usually most of the time when you go, not taking a trip like a vacation, but going to the nature, going for a hike, it's free. You just go there and you have a hike and you enjoy it. Now you're being told you can't do that. Going to visit your friend is a free ride, meaning that you go and see your friends because you want to reconnect, because we are being of meanings. We like to, most of the time physical touch is important. Hugging is important. All that stuff is important because it really releases different hormones that makes us really understand who we are as a person and have meaning. So when all those are being taken away from us, and then you wonder like, well, that's not normal. And this is not what I stand for. So I totally am on the same boat as you, because at the end of the day, everyone has the right to choose. And now we are being told that, no, you don't have the right to choose. There's only one way to do it. And if you don't accept my way, well, we'll just have to push you to the side. You're not inclusive of the society. And that's, for me, is what tyranny is about. Or I won't say even dictatorship, it's tyranny.
Yeah, it is. And it's a problem, but it's very unique because it's not just here. It's worldwide. So it'll be different. Look, let's be honest. If this was happening just here, we'd have the US would have already been here. The military would have been here helping us, because that's what we're under. Look, if you were to look at this in 5 years ago, like if this was happening in let's just say, Iraq or one of those countries that the US love invading, they'd be there already. Right. But it's such a global problem where it's unusual times, man. But look, I think the important thing is I don't think, we can only do so much. We can attend rallies, we can be vocal about our opinions and how we're feeling about certain things, which we've done so far for months. There's been hundreds of thousands of people marching through streets over the last few weeks, and they still pushed the pandemic bill through. They still have decided to start vaccinating 5 to 11-year-old children, even though the backlash, like if you jump on any news site, any TGA post or whatever, and you read the comments, it's hard to find a single person that's supportive of that.
Correct.
It's all negative, right? So
barristers, lawyers, etc. Even
yeah.
big shots are coming in and saying this is completely wrong.
Yeah, but they're still rolling with it and they're doing it, which is what I've said to people that, look, we have to do something. You can't do it, nothing. But at the same time, you've also got to come to a realization that it probably doesn't matter what we do. They're going to do what they want to do ultimately, which is what's happened. Yeah. So it's important to start taking ownership of things that we can control. One being, as I said before, our own life, our own health, physical, mental, spiritual health, and putting us in a good place. So no matter what happens, we're prepared and we've got the tools available to deal with it. Because, this has caused a lot of health problems for a lot of people. It really has. People don't want to go out. I've spoken to many people who don't want to go out because they're genuinely concerned about catching this virus, which is fine. That's their belief. That's totally fine. But what they're doing, they're deciding to get takeaway delivered to their house. So they're getting pizza and KFC and Macca's and all that bad shit 3 nights, 4 nights a week, right? People are drinking a lot more because for some reason it's considered an essential business. So they're still running. Yeah. And these people are, to deal with the isolation and to deal with the things that have been taken away from, they're drinking, which as a result of that, domestic violence is increasing, right? Yeah. They go hand in hand, I've noticed. Yeah. When alcohol use increases, domestic violence seems to follow, which is very unfortunate, but it is what it is, unfortunately. But, we've really got to get ourselves under, we've got to regather ourselves and say, listen, hold on, let's just pull ourselves together. Let's work on what we can control, which is our own being and our own, how we feel and, our own immediate environment, our homes, just simple things, man, like just, trying to live a bit of a cleaner lifestyle.
I agree. And that's the thing, like what is, I think, great right now is that we are becoming, I won't say all of us, but most of us are becoming conscious of the fact that there's different aspects of our life that we can address, that we didn't have time to address prior to that, or we didn't think that it was important, but now we're realizing how important they are. What we put in our mouth, how we live our life, what is really important, the people that we want to surround ourselves with. I think all those things are becoming very important to a lot of us. There's a lot of positive out of it, but before we can enjoy that positivity, there will be a lot of earthquakes in between before we get to that land of I wouldn't say freedom, but that land of acceptance, that land of love, kindness, compassion. Before we get to that, there will be a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what happens, whether or not the next time that, because I think you guys down there as well, they're talking about lifting the mandates as well is that right?
I've heard, because I have a friend who's an MP. I've heard a few things through him. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But most of the time that he said something to me, it did result in exactly his words. It did happen. So right now I've heard that apparently they will lift the mandate. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But they will push the mandate towards the 5 to 11-year-old here. And I'm guessing the parents will feel bad about the fact that the kids can't go to school, can't do those are the different things that may happen. Yeah. But eventually, what I've heard too is the fact that because they are thinking of opening the borders, people are coming in, then the risk of the virus is going to be heightened. Mind you, it's people who are vaccinated, nothing wrong with that, but people who are vaccinated is coming in, meaning that whoever is coming in, and from their perspective, is going to bring the virus. So I'm guessing vaccinated people. From that perspective, they're thinking of there will be a lockdown. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but that's his share around Jan. After the Austrian Open, there will be something that will happen. So we'll just see what is the situation.
Oh no, man! It's you know what? So we've got 7. So on the 15th here, so just another week, the unvaccinated people here in New South Wales go back to normal. So we're finally out of this lockdown, man. Finally, because we haven't been able to leave like 5 kilometers, right?
Shit.
Yeah. So it's been like very, very tough. I went months without seeing my parents, as a lot of people did, and friends, and it's been very tough. But we're nearly out of that now. But as I said to people, man, it don't get your hopes up in terms of, because that's bad for you. That's bad for your mental health and your spirit. When you think something and you believe in it wholeheartedly, then they get let down. It damages you just a little bit more each time it happens.
Correct.
Now, when they say, like they said the other day, they weren't going to put, I think Dan Andrews and the New South Wales Premier said that they weren't going to be imposing any more lockdowns. But I mean, you said that 2 or 3 times already. So you can't believe them at this point.
No.
It can't keep going on, man. It's ruining everything. Like, not just, people say ruining the economy, but it's ruining families, it's ruining fucking business, it's ruining everything.
You're trying to fix one problem, and we don't negate the fact that there is a virus. There's no one is negating there's a virus, but the way that we're approaching it, the way that we're treating it is wrong. But at the same time, there's a virus. We are putting all our resources in one thing and forgetting the other things that are going on around us, like mental health, like loss of job. So we are forgetting everything around us, and we're putting our focus in only one thing. It's like investment. When you put your money in one basket, that's it. That's the money is there. If you lose it, you lose everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
So right now, that's pretty much what they're doing. They're just putting all their resources, their money in one thing, which is like COVID is the problem, and forgetting about the other issues that are emanating from their action. So, yeah, that's pretty much the, I guess, situation we're right now.
It's absolutely nuts. I can't believe this is still going on. It's crazy.
No.
And to think
it's been 2 years now.
It's been 2 years, and you know what? It's just getting like Look, I don't really think this all. I look at when the vaccines first started rolling out as really the starting point for where we're at now, because the first 12 months, as I've said before in other podcasts, I genuinely believe that they were acting with our best intentions at heart. Like, I think the response was appropriate to the situation last year. When we had the federal government running everything, not the state governments, the federal government will take an ownership of it and go, listen. And it was better, man. Everything was in uniform. There was no issues with states, beefing with each other backwards and forwards. It was just the federal government were running the show. And the responses were appropriate. There was no segregation. There was none of this bloody 2-tier society, what's happening at the moment. There was none of that. It was an appropriate response to the first wave. But I think somewhere along the line, they've realized that this can be used as an opportunity. What that opportunity is for, I don't know. I can only speculate as everyone else can. But man, it needs to
stop.
Needs to finish.
It needs to stop. Yeah.
It needs to finish. But anyway, man, so I'll let you go, but where can we find you, Ash? What's your website?
So my website, well, actually I have a brand, a clothing brand that I've started with my partner, my girlfriend. It's called lightwarriors.com.au. We have quite controversial stuff, but then at the same time, fun quotes on t-shirt. So that's one of our brand, or should I say businesses, where we do a lot of work to not only the clothing, but we have our coaching, we have our detox plan where we help people actually just detox their body, detox their mind and body too. So that's lightwarriors.com.au. Plus I have my Instagram page, which is the Mind Body Coach, where if people want to reach out, they can reach out, send me a DM. As much as possible, I try to get to everyone with their questions. So that's a great way to connect with me. The Mind Body Coach on Instagram.
Okay, so I'll post those links to the show notes on this anyway.
Thanks, brother.
I didn't know you had that. Was it lightwarriors.com.au?
Lightwarriors with a Z at the end, .com.au, correct.
I'll jump on there afterwards and have a look. I didn't even.
Thanks,
it's
man.
Interesting, man. But listen, anything you do, man, I pay attention to, because you're an incredibly smart guy, and I really love how you've combined. You don't just work on one aspect; you work on the mind, body, spirituality as well, which is very important. You sort of combine them together which I really love that approach. So, mate, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Welcome on again anytime. I'll post the links to the show notes.
Awesome.
Yeah. Ash,
Chris,
been a
thank
pleasure.
you so much for having me. It was a pleasure, brother. Thank you so much for your kindness and at the same time giving me that opportunity to have a chat with you. It was awesome. And by the way, you're doing amazing work. I've watched everything that you post. I watch everything that you do, and I'm very grateful to be part of your surroundings. So thank you to you, and kudos to you, brother.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.